Hi, everybody. I'm Pete BarenBregge. I'm the jazz editor for Alfred Music. And my guest today is the famous and well-known Gordon Goodwin. I have a very brief little bio here that's probably not even totally accurate, but I'm going to read it nonetheless, and Gordon can correct us as we go along. Just in the television and film industry category, Gordon has won four, not two, not three, four Grammys, and I believe I'm going to say 22 nominations, but maybe you can correct me on that. And I just want people to get a bigger picture of Gordon Goodwin because anyhow, let me finish this. And the very end, you're also leader of the Big Fat Band, one of LA's most spectacular big bands, the Big Fat Band. So I just want people to know the broader sense of Gordon Goodwin, because I'm not sure who's going to be looking at this video. It could be students, it could be jazzers, and they will know about you. It could be contraband, it could be different genres, could be opera people, it could be orchestra. And I want them to know not just my opinion, how fantastic you are, but to know the scope of what you have accomplished. And we'll talk more about that in our little discussion here. But I just want them to know you are just not some guy that's got a big band and that's pretty good. You're like the top of the heap, man. And I from the day I met you, and we'll talk about that in a second, I just want you to know how much respect and admiration I have for you. So that being said, how you doing?
I'm feeling a little pumped up.
Well, there you go.
Right about now.
That's what I'm here for, man, to pump you up.
That's kind of always been your job, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for all that. That's that's a remarkable thing to hear about yourself. And the truth is, though, you just do what you do. You just get up every day and do what you do. I do what I love, and sometimes things fall in place, and it resonates with other people.
Yep.
If it doesn't resonate with other people, I still have to do what I do.
Yes, and keep on doing it. I was trying to think back to when we first met, and I knew about the band a little bit, but I'm going to say 2003 or 2004 at the Anaheim IAJE, and I'm sitting in the audience, and I'd never heard the band live, and I'm sitting next to Sammy Nestico and somebody else of great reputation. I can't think it was. Anyhow, and I'm hearing this band and watching your presentation as a band leader, and I'm like, wow. I love other big bands. I still listen to Count Basie all the time, and everybody else I could name 30 big bands, but my point is there's bands that have a great reputation from years and years in the past. And then you have the big band, the Big Fat Band, who has achieved that same status in 10, 15, 20 years. It's amazing. And now, am I correct about when we first met there?
Well, I believe it might have been Long Beach.
Okay.
It might have been the convention in Long Beach. And that gig was one of our first gigs. I mean, we were just kind of starting to realize that maybe this is a thing where we would do it live once in a while. It didn't start off that way. We were just going to record a record and then move on with our other stuff. Then opportunities came up, and that gig at IAJE, and we had James Moody as our guest that night. So that was another kind of bellwether night for me to work with Moody and everything. And I also remember interacting with Sammy at that same conference, and we kind of knew each other. But we have since become very good friends. But that was kind of the first time that he actually said, "Man, I love the Big Fat Brass." He called the band the Big Fat Brass, which was an old Billy May record. Billy, he had a thing called Big At Brass, and I just let it go because I was just so thrilled to be hanging, with Sammy. But yeah, you and I met at that conference, and you came up to me and said, "Look, I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about a relationship with the company I'm working for."
There you go.
Yeah.
And the rest is all history. And I look back at the adventures, because we've produced a couple. I've been able to publish a couple of your books and such, not to mention the charts. But I have a recollection at a Midwest or something like that, finishing up on one of the big fat band play-alongs in your hotel room on the computer. It must have been like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, talking about this and that last thing. Anyhow,
That's a lot of work, man. All the editing and formatting and things you had to do on those books. You probably put more hours in on it than I did,
Well, and
the good write the charts and record them.
And I still practice those things because it's very challenging, but they're so good, and I'm so proud of them.
Well, thank you. Well, they seem to have aged pretty well. They seem to be relevant. I think people are still buying them, and it would be. I'm often asked, can we do more of those books? And a lot of the issue is just the man hours and the sweat equity, and and the money it takes to do the remixes, drop the the lead instruments out.
Right.
It's a huge endeavor. So, but hopefully, that'll be that I could revisit, because we've got a lot more music since we did back in the day.
Let me start my little questions. Let's see. So I said some of the stuff I was going to ask you, but I would like to start off with the fact that the talent and the focus and the energy that you exude is remarkable. And I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, to talk us through of your motivation. Like, I know you said it's day to day and you get up and you do what you do, but that's kind of a low down way to say it. Can you?
Yeah, I don't want to undersell it, because the truth is I'm so grateful that I get to do music every day. I've hung on to that since I first fell in love with Count Basie when I was 7th grade, and my band director, a guy named Robin Snyder, he played me Basie straight ahead with charts by Sammy Nestico. He threw over to side 2 and played the last song, which is called The Queen Bee, and my life changed. I can just feel it. It just kind of went, that's what I got to do, And I said, and he goes, yeah, you should write a chart. I didn't. How do you do it? He goes, you'll figure it out, which is really the truth. We just got to sit down and figure it out. So from that time, to present day, having music in your life is indescribable. It's difficult when you get to the realization that not everybody in our culture values it to the extent that we do. They don't value music education to the extent that we do. And so there's a battle that we must undergo, and we have been, kind of engaging with in the past couple decades, to fight for the relevance of this important art form, not just jazz, but all music of content. And that's become kind of a drive motivator for me to keep up, even though, if you see behind me up on the wall up there, there's all the Fat Band records we've done, and lost money on every single one of them.
Right.
Who does that?
Exactly.
Who has a business and I'm gonna make this product and then I'm gonna sell it and I'm not gonna make money, but I'll do it again and I'll do it again and I'll do it again. So it teaches you that there might be other reasons to do things besides money, and you have to be kind of who you are, and writing music, playing music is pretty much who I am. Good thing, because I don't know how to do anything else.
That's an interesting statement you made that I don't think people really get, that a big band does not make money. And
no, it doesn't.
It's not a question of being good or not. It's a question of perception from people that have the audience, not so much the audience, but the from the financial viewpoint, So, and then I think, and you've told me this many times, that not only have you been able to take the band in various places in the US to perform at festivals and such, and fantastic CDs and sometimes with the DVD to go along. But then you've taken the band to Australia at least once or twice. You've been to Japan numerous times. You've been to, is it the Czechoslovakia or
Prague? Prague, yeah, right.
And France. So, so somebody else could say, well, gee, if Gordon can do all that, he must mean, that big band must be really profitable.
It does seem, yeah, it does seem that way. But you know what?
With mirrors, right?
Well, you know what? You do have to kind of duct tape it together, a little bit. But I'm lucky, because the guys in my band believe in the mission statement. and they understand that what they're doing is kind of a link in the chain of Count Basie and Thad and Mel and, you know, Duke Ellington, Buddy Rich, and all those bands. So they see value in it, so they can go, well, I'm going to go to Japan, you know, for a week and probably lose money, but I get to play in the Blue Note in Japan, and I get to play this music, and I get to be part of a culture, and that has value to them. There are guys that have been in the band in the past that weren't able to make that commitment, to make that trade-off, and so I had to find people that were able to do that. Nobody is buying their retirement home from income from, you know, from this. And yet it requires a skill set that is just the highest in the world. And that's the irony. You would think that a high level of skill would be compensated, you know, commensurately, but it's not. And I like I say, I'm really fortunate that the guys enjoy the music and they enjoy being part of the project. And here we are, you know, 20 years later, still banging away.
Yes, and I can add to that. Not only do they enjoy playing the music, but they have the respect of, you know, from you that you give them, and that's a big deal. I mean, you can't just like treat these guys like hired help. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
these are the cream of the crop. This is the best musicians in jazz on the planet, and you built a band around them brilliantly, and it's paying off. Not financially.
and it is like a, you know, like a three-legged stool. So it's like the writing and then the playing and how they lift the notes off the page. And then for, it comes to the record, there's the production, the engineering by our engineer, Tommy Vicari, who was able to record the music and mix it in a way that enhances, you know, all the detail in it. So take any one of those elements out, and maybe the production angle that observed when you saw us at the gig, and we were just starting out. I was trying to figure out, how do I present this music in a way that isn't just a band leader up there counting the tune off?
Right.
How do I present it in a way that makes it a little more accessible and entertaining without that being a dirty word, which in the jazz business, some people do think that it, you know, it's inappropriate, or that you're not artistically serious if you also are, you know, having a good time and engaging with the audience.
Right. And you do that. And sometimes I've even seen you with the band numerous times that you might even, as you introduce the next tune, you might even explain one little facet of the arrangement or the song, if you will. And it's almost like you're giving someone a handle to hang on to listen for, you know, and even if they don't know what, like a flat from a B flat, if they don't know they don't know a flute from a Buick, if they don't know anything, you know, you have connected them instantly, and that is very successful of you.
I think that, you know, an enhanced understanding of anything leads to more appreciation of it. The first time I heard Bach, I was like, what is this? The first time and I had a piano teacher around 8th grade, 9th grade I was playing the Bach two-part inventions, and I just couldn't have been less interested. But what I didn't understand at the time was what my technique that I was gaining from playing those exercises, and the harmonic and melodic knowledge that was seeping into me from studying those things. And now I hear those inventions, it's just like freaking magic. It's like a miracle. How did somebody write these perfect, you know, pieces? So the more I understood about it, the more I got it.
And then you add the Bach when they do it, you know, retrograde and all these different things on the same stuff. It's like, wow. Anyhow, so let me move to my next question, if I could. No doubt over the years, you have encountered many obstacles, shall we say, whether it be composing, arranging, or playing your horn, or being a band leader. Now, I know that would take 4 hours to talk about, but maybe if you could like put that into a tiny box for me.
It's about commitment, and you know, when you're young, maybe you don't have to commit yet. So as I was young, I was playing the piano and I was playing alto sax. Then I added tenor and soprano, and then I got my flute and my clarinet, and then I started studying counterpoint and, you know, orchestration and conducting. And then after I got out of college, I had to learn how to work a computer and use samples. And then I had to learn how to market music and record it and edit. Now I'm learning how to do video editing. There's always more stuff to do, and any one of those things could take your whole life. I would be a lot better of a saxophone player if I played it every day. Here he is over there. sitting there in the corner. You can barely see him. And I haven't touched him for probably 3 weeks. And I know I'm gonna have to pay for that when I finally have a gig and I got to get back on it. But it's just like it's spinning plates. But I did have to make some decisions along the way. And one of them was to put the flute away and the clarinet away and to stop taking gigs that were maybe pulling too much focus from the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And the money losing big fat band was clearly one of those things. And it happened when I was about 40 years old. I was working for Warner Brothers, conducting on the soundstage there, all the Spielberg animation stuff we were doing. And I thought, is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, go to Warner Brothers and write what they want. And then go to Disney and then I write the way they want. I mean, it's a noble way to make a living, to be sure, and a lucrative one. But is it? Or should I plant my flag and decide who I am? And since I decided to do that, I feel like my life is coming to balance. I've kind of flowing with it, as opposed to try to make things happen and will things into existence by the force of my energy or my talent or whatever. I wasn't naturally that kind of guy. And I think when I started to breathe more, get into doing some meditation, more exercise, all that kind of stuff, then things kind of came more naturally. Too bad. I wish it would have happened in my 20s or 30s, but it didn't. And it's funny, I listened to songs we recorded or things I wrote back in those days, and they seem hasty. They seem kind of like they're just vibrating with this kind of not anxiety exactly, but some sort of a nervous thing. And then I'd hear some people like, for the Chick Corea, the first stuff when he was in his 20s just sounds just in the pocket, he just had it. He just had that thing, in his body and in his spirit from the beginning. Some of us have to try to go chase that and implement that, which was my case.
Correct. Even though you focus on jazz primarily, you do a lot of stuff with movies and orchestrating and such. Can you tell me one genre of music that you would say surprised you the most about that as you had to delve into it?
Well, I would really, if it wasn't so logistically hard and expensive, I would write orchestral music. I just love it so much. And I wrote a trumpet concerto for James Morrison a couple of years ago, and I wrote a soprano sax concerto, and I've written a number of string quartets, and I've written I just got a piece for Eddie Daniels for flute and piano, a little bit of improvisation, but it's definitely not just jazz. And but the orchestra, I've been lucky that working for Disney, I can go and stand in front of a 100-piece orchestra and write for them and hear that sound. Now I might be arranging "Let It Go," or something, but I can work, in that environment and soak in that, and that's kind of a dream that I would find a way to have that come a little bit more present in my life. But get in line, right? There's plenty of composers that would love to just write orchestral pieces. But James's trumpet concerto probably took me 6 months to write, and we've gotten one performance. And so it's a time management thing. 6 months, and then it was a great performance. It was the Melbourne Symphony, and it was amazing. But it was done.
Right.
So it's interesting things to consider, how you budget your time and what you're gonna do with your life. That's where you become a little more precious about it, about spending your time doing things that don't bring you joy, and don't bring you that aren't authentic.
Good. You mentioned about orchestrating. Once again, that's a big discussion. But for the uninformed, can you give us the condensed version of when someone hires you to orchestrate for a film, what you have to do to include writing the music, arranging it, doing what the person has suggested you do as far as a melodic content, hiring orchestra, contracting musicians, or at least playing,
Yeah.
and then
Okay, so there became a new breed of composer in the past 20 years in LA, or for film music in general. Guys that didn't grow up playing instruments in bands. They grew up with computers. So they don't know exactly all the things that we know intuitively about how human beings make sound and the physical requirements of that. So they might write, sustained trumpet parts, like string parts or something. So my job might be to somehow tactfully say, this is really taxing for the musicians, but it's also monotonous in terms of its color. We need to save the trumpets for the most impactful moments. So I might say, why don't we let the French horns do this and let the strings do that, and we'll bring the trumpets in here. I might make suggestions like that. It's a combination of orchestration and arranging. And this is what is difficult, because arranging is a difficult thing to define, because it does involve original creation of original content sometimes. Nelson Riddle, and he writes an introduction for Frank Sinatra. But you can't hear "I Got You Under My Skin," but I'm thinking about that introduction. It's become a part of the song. Yet he got paid to arrange it,
Right.
which means he doesn't get royalties. He doesn't, he just got one fee to do it. So, but nonetheless, sometimes that's your job. Now, some composers will hand you very detailed, like if you look at John Williams, his sketches are just meticulous. Every piece of information is there. His orchestrators just copy it out. You could probably even have the music copyists extract parts from his sketches. They're so complete and detailed. Other times, they might be extremely sketchy. I've had a composer say, you know what, that's the theme. Can you just kind of, make it work? And so my job is to say, yeah. Sometimes it's a function. Those guys can be very under a lot of pressure, a lot of time pressure. And so some of them will just say, can you just, you know what it needs, right? And now I have to decide whether I go, you need to pay me more because I'm doing kind of your job too now. So I have to decide if I say that, because a lot of times, if depending on the movie, if the movie is going to sell a lot of tickets, then I'm going to get, royalties from being a part of the AFM contract, and that could be significant if it's a popular movie. So it might be better for me just to protect the relationship and not try to grab more money right now, to be a cooperative guy. Right. To be somebody who they want to work with. It's a fine line, because you don't want to get taken advantage of, because that's happened as well. So a lot of times, though, an orchestrator is translating what he hears in the MIDI demo and making it work for real instruments. Back in the day, a lot of times composers, because the samples, especially earlier, didn't sound real. They sounded fake. So what you would do is you just start layering a million different parts on there. And so then your ear is kind of fooled by the volume of the stuff coming at you. And so I remember I had one cue. It had a high string line, and it had a bass line going, it had bass parts going do 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 do, cello parts going do do do, other cellos going do 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 do. And then a 4-octave string melody playing a big lyrical da 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 da. It was just thick with strings, and I had probably 40 strings in that orchestra, and I didn't have enough to cover all of it. So I had to decide: do we need the cello going doom doom doom, because the bass are doing it? It's okay, give it, guys. Do I need, and then I could give this to the French horns, you try to kind of move it around and make it work in a live environment. So that's often what our jobs are.
Pretty good. All right. As we close up, any big plans or adventures in the near future for you?
We're all just enduring,
yes,
COVID right now.
Right.
And all the work that I had just got wiped out last March. Fat Band had gigs, Hollywood Bowl, tours, that all got wiped away. I had a couple of big projects for Disney, that's gone. So I've been using the time. The Big Fat Band has recorded 4 songs virtually. One of them for Sammy Nestico. His last chart, which is called Cell Talk. Have you heard that chart?
Yeah.
And we recorded it. And then I wrote the chart that I wrote for you. What's it called?
It's called
It's called My Man Sam.
My Man Sam. It's us here.
My Man Sam. We recorded that, and the focus was the point was to mix them and give them to Sammy. Now you may know that Sammy is probably near the end of his life. He's still with us. He's hanging in, but possibly transitioning. So the question of whether we can go down there and play these for him, I'm not sure, but we're hoping to do that. But with COVID, it's been harder to justify getting together to mix them, and we really hope to do that for him. But I've been working. I've been trying to build and do a lot of writing, and for when next spring or next summer, when show business comes back, I have a few things that I can get going. But it's been kind of a liberating time, because I come down here every morning and I can go, what do I want to write today? As opposed to my assignment for the day. But I remain so grateful to have music in my life. I've been so lucky, so fortunate, and to have lifelong relationships with people like you, the guys in the band, and I don't know how it gets better. So and I don't know if that sounds contrived. It really, really isn't. And that's what I talk to kids that are they don't get it, because they just think, well, yeah, I play saxophone, and my dad pays for my lessons, and that's just my life. And I say, it doesn't have to be your life. Life can turn on a dime. And so, right today, I don't have COVID. I'm talking to you. Life is good, and all we have is today. So that's one thing that kind of is a bit of a worldview that's, I think, been a positive for me.
Sounds good. All right, I think we need to wrap it up. It's been a joy to see you again and talk with you,
Matt.
And we'll keep in touch, and have a nice holiday.
Thanks, Pete. Really good to talk to you.